One of the ways I think we can potentially help to understand each other better is knowing that a certain amount of our political persuasion is built in, it's genetic. Essentially, this is an ancient conversation between people seeking novelty, what we call today liberals, and people who want to avoid threat. How can we prevent serious societal collapse? One of the big questions of our time, I think, is how can we understand each other better? How can we communicate better with people we disagree with? Have you ever been in a position where a good friend or someone you know seems to have a very strange and unusual political opinion, or maybe many political opinions? This can be someone you like, someone you think is very intelligent, yet they seem to have a very strange view of politics that you just can't relate to, that you just can't understand. It's not because they're unintelligent. This person may be very smart and you regard them as very smart. It's not that they're necessarily uninformed. It's not that they are self-interested necessarily. In fact, self-interest is a very poor predictor of political persuasion. It could indeed be the fact that they have a different moral makeup, a different moral framework. This is the idea put forward by Jonathan Haidt in his fantastic and seminal work, The Righteous Mind. Now, the election is just a few weeks away, and as usual, things are extremely tense. How can we learn to communicate better with those people that we disagree with? Well, Jonathan Haidt puts forward some very interesting and important ideas in his great work, in his great book. Jonathan Haidt basically put forward the idea that there are 6 moral foundational principles that you see cross-culturally that seem to permeate all human cultures. He compares them to the taste receptors or our taste buds, that when it comes to taste, we have 5 receptors: sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami. All humans have the same 5 taste senses, but people's individual preferences can change. Some people prefer sweet, some people prefer sour, but we all have the same 5 taste buds. Jonathan Haidt puts forward the argument that that is true of our moral makeup. One of the most interesting aspects of the book is that Jonathan Haidt shows that there is actually a genetic predisposition that people have towards either liberal politics or conservative politics. And the question is, well, how could that be the case? Well, Jonathan Haidt states, a study of 13,000 Australians found several genes differ between liberals and conservatives. The findings fit with studies showing that conservatives react more strongly to liberals to signs of danger. Other studies have implicated genes related to sensation-seeking and openness to experience, which are among the best established correlates to liberalism. One of the ways I think we can potentially help to understand each other better is knowing that a certain amount of our political persuasion is built in, it's genetic. Liberals are attuned, it seems, more finely towards novelty-seeking behavior, and conservatives seem to be more finely tuned towards threat. This, I think, is a really interesting idea. Now, it doesn't solve the problem of the differences. However, I think having a better understanding of some of the differences between liberals and conservatives could potentially help take out some of the sting that can be associated with people when you very much disagree and aren't able to understand where this person comes from. It's that their moral makeup differs. One way of thinking about this is that the fact that the genes predispose us to either novelty-seeking behavior, which is associated with liberals, or threat sensitivity, which is associated to conservatives, is that this is an ancient conversation that humans for millennia have been discussing their problems, and certain genes that allow for novelty-seeking have continued to proliferate, and certain genes that are associated with fear and threat have continued to proliferate. Think about an example from ancient human hunter-gatherers. There is a group of humans and they have a problem that they have to solve. Some members of the group are saying that we need to go off and travel across a mountain range to find new lands where there could be new food, new opportunity. Now, those members of the group are more attuned to novelty. Other members of the group are more attuned to threats. They say, if we go over this mountain range, there could be other hunter-gatherers there that could cause us harm, that we could go to war, it could be dangerous, we don't know what's over there, we better stay put. Essentially, this is an ancient conversation between people seeking novelty, what we call today liberals, and people who want to avoid threat, people who are more attuned to conservative beliefs. This is humanity's problem-solving mechanism that evolution has bestowed upon us. It is an ancient conversation that humans have been having. Sometimes the people who wanted novelty, to go out and to explore, will have been correct, and they were right, and the tribe will have flourished, and those genes are passed on. Some people who wanted to stay and avoid threat, sometimes they will have been right, and those genes also flourished and passed on. So essentially, it is a kind of ancient yin and yang conversation. Some people are tuned to threat, some people seek out novelty. That is the latent condition of how we derive a certain amount of our political persuasions today. I think having an understanding of this could potentially take some of the sting out of our current political discourse. Let's listen to what Jonathan Haidt has to say about this.
So once you know this, once you understand the moral foundations, you can be more persuasive in any context. And I often get, I get emails from people. It seems, especially about in-laws, like, thank you, my father-in-law is, MAGA, or he's, far right. And for the first time, I actually can understand him as a human being. So, the human experience is diverse. We all look at the world and see different things. And we can do the usual thing, which is just hate people for it and think they're stupid and break off from them. And that was tolerable for a while. But now in the age of social media, we're confronted with this all the time. We're coming apart. We're blowing apart. We're full of anger. So I'm hopeful that at least moral foundations theory will help people see that, the other side, they're not inhuman. You can disagree with them all you want, but you're better off understanding them. And it makes you a lot less angry. It makes you a lot better able to deal with the world.
So essentially Jonathan Haidt here is saying that moral foundation theory can help us become, hopefully, less hostile to those that we disagree with. Now, the critic in my mind is saying, look, that might be all well and good, but particularly in American politics today, there is a zero-sum nature to many of the hot topic issues. You can either have access to an abortion or you don't. You either have access to guns or you don't. The issues of the left and the right aren't going to go away. Regardless of what you think of the other side, the country is essentially split basically 50-50, give or take, on these political issues. So the primary question of our time is, how can we have dialogue better with those people? How can we take the sting out, the anger? It's hard to do when there are entrenched, genuine beliefs around important issues, abortion and guns and all the various different political issues we have of our time. I'm not saying that. But I think having a greater understanding of some of these issues that go into how people form their political persuasion could help at least take the sting out of some of these genuinely charged conversations. It's not an answer to policy, and it's not going to solve all the problems, but I think understanding how people come to have their moral persuasion, their political views, could be incredibly helpful. So remember, when we're thinking about people that we disagree with, it's not that they're stupid, it's not that they're uninformed, it's not even that they're selfish or that their self-interest is primary. It's that they have a different moral makeup, and a certain amount of that is genetic. A certain amount of that is to do with our genes. If you would like to learn more about Jonathan Haidt and the righteous mind and his ideas of moral psychology, moral foundational theory, I have linked his book below. I highly recommend it. It was written in 2013, over a decade ago. It's as relevant, if not more relevant today. So please let me know what you think. I would love to hear from you. I'll see you next time.